because I'm not even going to give you a chance. Because impressively, we have not said one word to each other.
It was a struggle,
I
I'll
mean,
be honest with you.
we've talked to each other, to be clear. We've
Yes.
had conversations. We have conversations almost pretty much every day.
Yes.
But we impressively, without ever agreeing to
Yes.
talk about it, we did not talk about it.
No.
So what we're referring to is the X-Men 97 finale. I started with the entire OG series, and as of I had not watched any of the X-Men 97 series, and in 2 days I finished the X-Men 97 series and finished episode 9 Tuesday
Yes.
in preparation for Wednesday. Was very excited.
That
So,
was perfect timing.
right? Yeah, I mean, like it's almost like my sickness came out of like the heavens and was like, we're going to force you on.
Yes.
We're going to force you onto the couch and make you just binge everything. So, yeah, so like, even complete off topic. I watched I know it's very girly of me, but I know, shockingly enough, I enjoy boy things and girl things. The whole Bridgerton, the season 3.
Sarah has been watching it like since day one,
Right.
and then she read I think some of the books, and then she restarted it and just finished her rewatch today. And it was I had a meeting, and then I walked into our room where she was watching it, and so she paused it, and I like was trying to have a conversation with her, and she was giving me this look,
Like,
and I'm like, what? And she's like, can you not? It's like there's a very important thing happening right now. You just walked in here. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, my bad.
right.
So I can believe,
And
but
then
yeah,
you have to wait another month for
she's
like the
not
next
happy about
three.
that.
Yeah, for the next 3 or 4 episodes. So, anyways, yes. So, what did you think of X-Men 97, episode 10, the finale?
It was so good. I was surprised that we didn't see certain characters or certain character, I guess, which
Yeah.
was Onslaught.
Yes.
But as a whole, I really like what they did, and I like what they set up for the next season. And I'm assuming you saw the mid-credit scene.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a lot that they've kind of set up for the second season.
Yeah, delving into 2 series,
Yes.
the I forgot is it the days or the time with Jean and Scott, or was it, I forgot what the exact title of that series is. I actually haven't read that one. I mean, this I know this is a little bit of a confession, and I'm not really proud of this, and I know people probably get a little angry if I say this, but I'm not a huge Scott Summers fan.
That's fine.
I'm he I tend to like my characters a little bit more. I mean, and granted, in the comic book series, they have tried to give him layers. Like,
Yes.
they've tried to make him a little bit more scoundrel like. Just as far as this series, I'm constantly saying like he just gets like he's like Captain America light, but he's like a irritating version of Captain America. Like he doesn't
That's what I was about to say.
like he's a
He's a
whiny
great guy.
version of
He's a
him.
strategist and all of that, but like Captain
Whiny.
America is, yes, Captain America is like a strategist, and like this is my values, this is what I stand on.
Right.
And if you don't like it, so be it. And Scott tries to be that, but then it's like, but guys, no, like
Right.
these are my values. Like, yeah. Like, yeah, you're a
Jean, look at
yeah,
me. You're just like, oh, I mean,
yeah.
he grates on minors. I mean, like, admittedly, I haven't read the series just because of that. I know that they're doing Age of Apocalypse, which I am 3/4 of the way through right now. Um, doing it again. Do you have the Marvel Unlimited app yet?
I don't. It's something that I am getting, but
You
I
know,
don't
you
have.
can look, you can, on the little search thing, you type in Age of Apocalypse and hit reading
Yes.
issues, and it gives you the entire event.
Oh, I've like toured the app.
It's
It's
my
on its yeah.
one of my favorite apps. Like I'm like 3/4 of the way reading it, and and then I know that there's a 2015 Age of Apocalypse series that they did. This one like had this one goes back. This is like 80s and 90s. The one that I'm reading right now. Um, I it was the entire series absolutely deserves the 9 that it got on that it has on
Yes.
IMDb 100%. And you were right, the one that has a 9.8, which is the one that spoiler alert if you haven't watched it. I don't. Well, first of all, you shouldn't be watching this if you haven't watched it.
Right.
Because we're going to talk spoilers here. And the one where Gambit dies,
Yes.
or does he? Because he's gonna
Yeah, he's
again.
coming
If
back.
they go by the comics, yeah, he's coming back as Death. Um, as one of the four horsemen.
Four Horsemen.
Yeah, yeah, that one definitely deserved the rating that it's so good. So I love this series. I was a little bummed with the finale that they were
Yes.
going in another time, um, time machine direction. I'm
Which
losing.
they've done already.
And
They've just kind
multiple,
of continuously been doing it throughout the show.
and yeah, throughout the show, and even just kind of it feels like it's almost kind of like Marvel fallback, like, oh, well, we're just gonna fall into another time,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like or into another time, or just where there's, oh, it's good, and we've all. I feel like Marvel just almost, and sometimes I should say it's getting to the point where a lot of sci-fi shows in general are kind of just using the time crunch.
It's the easy go-to.
Yes, it's very much of a crutch right now, and that's the reason I was disappointed that they didn't go the on. I thought the onslaught was kind of I mean, Apocalypse was used. I mean, again, I know maybe they're trying to just go back to the original theory, or
He
like,
was used every season.
yes, and
Like, so I liked the finale.
yes,
I
I did
think they
too.
did set up a lot of interesting storylines for the second season, but the way that episode 9 ended, it was like eh, Logan Wolverine, was it Fatal Attraction, Feral Attraction? His adamantium was pulled out. He was going full savage mode. You had Onslaught. I It was depressing, but I liked where they were at in the current, because in the show they always talked about humans breaching their breaking point with mutants, and there was always this threat, but it
Right,
never really got to that point. And then in this show they were like,
right,
no, like, we're doing it. We're
right,
in like, you were in the moment. I was excited to see you finally got Magneto's prediction, because it was always like he was the bad guy. You gotta
right,
go with what Charles says. You got a president that advocates for you guys, and now you've got them firing missiles at the rocket. There's everything that happened on Genosha. I was like, okay, so we're finally in
right.
Magneto's version, and now they're like, all right, we're going back in time, and it's like, oh, okay, so
Like, oh, we hit it right there. Like,
yeah,
yeah. And plus, I mean, like, it would have introduced a great, a great character in Onslaught where I mean, he's so bad. I mean, and
yeah,
the thing is, what is great about him is he's the combination of the two.
right,
Um, and that's kind
yeah,
of always what the series is built around, is them finding their like they're finding their agreement, their negotiation, their coming together point where
yeah.
unfortunately, like, they're coming together. I'm looking at the scores too.
I wondered. I was like, I know the game is on, so
No, the game is on. I'm like, I look, oh, we're side note, we're actually winning again.
are we?
Hmm.
I was
Um,
at the stadium for a total of like 5 minutes. Sorry,
you
continue.
should have stayed, but I mean,
I thought about it. I really did.
I'm telling you, those tickets were.
That was wild.
I love Game Time app.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love Game Time. And like that, I was. If I had just felt a little bit better, but like I just don't have any energy right now.
that's fair.
Completely sidetrack off of what we were talking about,
Yeah, it's just, yeah,
but I mean,
but yeah,
yeah, I I just thought, oh, we're going to time. we're going the time path again, and it's not. Um, I mean, I guess it's not. Yeah, they're doing the Age of Apocalypse storyline, or like they're kind of trying to show you, or maybe they're leading you to it. Although I feel like I know somebody either. This is like now again, like I can't remember if Onslaught they teams up with them to defeat Apocalypse, or Apocalypse teams up to fight Onslaught, or if it's Mr. Sinister. Like I'm getting all my people confused right now. I know that he at one point factors into a fight and help, either he helps defeat or they help defeat him. Like it's
Yeah.
but I mean like the Age of Apocalypse story, it's good, but it also has Charles dead again. I mean, again. I mean, which I know, and I know people love. I mean, I know people love him, and I do love. I will say this: I do love Patrick Stewart as him, and there's no shade to James McAvoy. I mean, Patrick Stewart to me kind of just is Professor X. You know, I guess it's just
Yes.
because of also the time that I grew up and watched the movies. Um, but like and I know in the show, and he's supposed to be like super powerful, but he's also supremely useless
Yes.
and grumpy.
And I thought Magneto telling him to shut up was great
Yeah,
because I think us as the viewers are on the side of Xavier because Magneto's side is kind of just like all out war, even though I've kind of been on record for years of saying, like, look, let me be honest with you. If I had mutant powers and I kind of looked around the way you were treated, I probably would have been running up with Magneto, but just
right,
not fully extremist like he is. But you see, Charles was gone. People start dying. Things are going terribly. He comes back, and I felt like he looked around at what happened and what was happening, saw that they were basically in a vicious cycle that was just progressively getting worse for the mutants. And I felt like he came back, hardly acknowledged the tragedy, and was just like, let's all come together and hold hands. And it's like, nah,
right,
come on, man. Like at this point, even you have to look up and realize something's got to give. And I think the mutants were starting to see that, like, yo, Magneto might have had a point because, he going back to the original show, he had his asteroid. He was like, fine, you know us to leave, we'll leave. He
right.
did that. Tried
And
living in
it's
peace, tried running the school, and within hours or days of him doing that, they already neutralized Storm's powers. Then
right,
Genosha happened. And I feel like Charles, who wasn't there for any of that, came back and immediately wanted to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And it's like, no, dude, like, no. And then after all of that, his solution is, oh, I'm going to get in Magneto's mind and force him to fix the damage he's done without, again, acknowledging all the damage that they had done. He was just like, well, they're a primitive people. Like, come on, man. Like he was useless. He was Jar Jar Binks. He was C3PO.
right. He's yeah. I was every time like something would happen, I'd be like, you're about 2 episodes too late for everything
Yeah.
that you're doing. Like you were all cavorting on an alien, on a spaceship, with your girlfriend. You were already healed.
Yeah.
Like at this point, you just weren't coming back. I know you
You just
were.
didn't feel like it. You were chilling.
And I mean, so like, and at no point were you aware that like Storm took one for Magneto, like, and was away, like no powers, like one of
Yeah.
your strongest goddesses. I mean, like, you and and um you had no idea that Jean was a clone.
Like I didn't want to say anything because I thought the episodes were really well done, but there was at one point I'm like, bro, you're like in her mind. Like y'all communicate and you had no idea all this time. All like unless you find out later, which kind of would ruin the continuity that it happened after you died. But the way that it was set up, it's like, no, this was years ago because you're Nathan's like it just all just
Right.
or it just it didn't make sense to me.
And I was a little shocked that Wolverine never picked up a different scent of her.
That too.
I'm yeah, that I but I mean like from my understanding, like I guess during Secret Invasion, I don't think he could smell the difference, and I mean so maybe that was some of the same thing too, but I was like this that I was a little surprised, but then I was like, okay, that's a good loop. That threw everybody for a good loop right
It did.
there. Like that's decent. That's fun. But I
Scott
was
staying with Gene didn't make sense either, but that's just me. I mean,
hmm?
I said Scott staying with his Gene didn't make sense either. I'm just gonna be honest. Madeline Pryor got the hair down, the thigh high boots. I would be gone, gone,
We can understand why he just didn't keep both. And then like
or
the
both. He's over
Wolverine
here like, you're
one,
not my Gene. Is that a problem? Like, just the more the merrier.
then let Wolverine have one. I mean,
Or yeah, or be a
now
team
there's
player.
two. There's two. There's two. There's
And now
two.
you're like, no, you can go. Send her away.
He
Yeah,
couldn't tell
Wolverine
the
can stay.
difference. None
Yeah,
of them could tell the difference. And so you're like,
yeah.
I mean, maybe if you were the real Gene, you'd be like, well, since you couldn't tell the difference, I'm gonna go with the guy who's been lusting after me for all these years. But
I mean, but then getting back to Professor X, another thing that bugged me besides just him immediately wanting to hold hands and not acknowledge things, in that universe, for the characters that we've been introduced to, he is one of the most powerful characters there. I mean, it's him,
except for
Jean.
right, he's not Omega level, I don't believe, right?
Charles isn't?
Is he?
I assumed he was. Like, I know
I,
he's paralyzed, but I thought that with,
I
but I thought that
let's
he
see.
was like, because I thought he was like one of like the Omega of Omegas. Like, I thought he was up there with how powerful his mind was, but maybe he wasn't.
I see. I
Because
thought she was. I thought Omega was like you were the most. You were the okay. It says you're the one with the most genetic potential of their mutant ability. So like Storm obviously is Omega level, because I mean like she, um, but I would think
I also know Omega's been getting tossed around a lot because I was actually
okay,
having this
he's an
conversation.
Omega level telepath, but only an Alpha level mutant
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
because she's Jean surpasses him.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I just
which
feel like he could have at least done more. Like, obviously, okay, she's more powerful, makes sense, but
he's so useless.
he was ready to get into Magneto's mind, which is not an easy thing to
But he
do.
couldn't do it
He,
alone.
well, he yeah, couldn't
He
do it
needed
alone.
her because he was
Yeah,
already worn out. Again, where I
yeah,
was like, and that happened, I was like, God, you were just useless.
yeah.
If she wasn't there, you couldn't do this.
But the only time that you were willing to go that far was to another mutant, when again, a literal genocide happened on this island. There, the president and everyone is discussing like next steps that aren't in your best interest. Like, all of this stuff is happening. You have these telepathic powers, and while you're trying to sing Kumbaya, when you finally reach your breaking point and you decide to use your powers, you immediately turn them towards the other mutant. And I was just like, what are you go back to space? What are you doing here?
But Gene, I'm gonna need help because I'm using all my power right now to walk.
Right.
And
Yeah.
take the effing suit off. Get in a brother. I'd be like this, brother. I'm gonna need your assistance. I could literally care less about your legs moving right now.
Yeah, we can carry you. We've got like 6 different people here that can carry
Dude,
you
Hank can put you on a backpack.
easily.
What if Yoda style? What do we need here? Why?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
So we don't know where Wolverine and Morph landed in all
Correct. I I fit I feel like they're on the moon planet or whatever blue area Scott and Jean are at in the future.
yeah.
Just like I think they're in the same time period, just like on the other side of the desert.
Yeah, I did find that a little strange that it was like conveniently the only two that were in, the I forgot the clan, I forget the
Yeah,
like with their daughter.
yeah,
Um
with their daughter and son. It was just those two.
yeah, that was like, well, that's
Yeah,
convenient that everybody else blew to 3000 BC
yeah,
and you two are the only ones that ended up in the future.
yeah. So I think they are there, but they got thrown like 30 miles away, and so they're gonna start making their way towards wherever. But with Scott and Jean, they're gonna be able to merge themselves into this clan and be fine somewhat. And Wolverine's gonna find like another faction or whatever, and it's gonna be more aggressive. And then they're all gonna end up meeting in the middle, kind of like Thor and Hulk on the planet when he's like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." Like I
Yeah.
feel like they're gonna meet up, but it's not gonna be under great circumstances. But I did think it was slightly convenient. I do think Onslaught is still a potential threat
I do
because
too, but I didn't
they
like
get
that
all
they really kind of I don't like that they I don't want to say healed Magneto at the end of that one.
yeah.
Um because he is too in 3000 BC. I didn't like that they like, oh, okay, he just had, he remembers he remembers who he is.
He remembers everything now.
It's like I didn't like that because I thought, okay, I was like, if they can wipe his memory, then I think they are going down the on like they have the onslaught storyline to because like, he pretty much wipes out everything that makes Eric or
Yeah,
Magnus. How many times they've changed his name? Um Eric Magnus Linger. Um
yeah.
yeah, like I thought, okay, well they'll do that, but I mean, like maybe they still can because I would like for them, I guess, in the new series for him if he makes a comment in the first view about that he still feels his hate and his whatever inside of him inside of Xavier, then you maybe know that they're gonna maybe work towards it and it'll peak, make it, but maybe then be the cliffhanger for the next season. Have they said
Yeah.
they're going to do next season?
Yes, they apparently it's already written.
Oh,
They're just it's apparently already pretty far along because Bo
oh,
DeMeo, who was like the head executive producer,
which they got
uh,
rid of.
got rid of, and still there's no explanation, but he's on Twitter talking about it, like the show. I did hear that he has like already written, I think, seasons 1 and 2, maybe 3, but I know he's like I think they said he's
Oh,
already
okay.
done with 2. So
Uh-huh.
I think they're just animating it or putting the finishing touches on it or doing the voiceover work, but I think it's already written. Now, will they go and make
Oh, okay.
changes? Possibly.
Because I think it's like, yeah, I would still like an explanation on why the guy who's created one of your most well performing, well written Marvel pieces out there in recent, you know, I mean, in recent history now,
Oh yeah.
why he was let go, why you let him go. I mean, like, why
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And I
no,
mean, again, it's like been week to week, people have been praising the show. So it's like,
yes,
would you come back and
heavily
apologize,
handed. Yeah,
hire
like
him back?
yeah, like we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Following the source material way too close. We're gonna need to
Right.
pull it back and make it ridiculous to the point where nobody understands what's happening anymore. No,
No,
which
I really enjoyed the show. I walked away from the finale thinking it was a good finale. It was a good story,
yes,
but personally, with the characters they were potentially introducing,
yes,
and then again for me, just you finally got to see the opposite. Because I mean, well, technically, Days of Future Past, it did get pretty bad,
yeah,
but you always, at the end of the day, got back to Charles's vision of things. And in this one, it was kind of like, hey, like we can kind of see the beginning phases of a potential Days of Future Past, and the world is in this spot. People are really looking at Xavier or looking at Magneto, thinking he's right, and then they immediately jumped to a whole different time period. So it's not that they
Right.
didn't do the finale well. I just feel like you left you had all these breadcrumbs and you had like the perfect path, and then out of nowhere you're like, we're gonna take this road that didn't exist. Like, no, but the road's fine, right? He's like, no, we're
Right.
going this way.
Right. And a character that's kind of like at this point in the series has been used a lot.
A lot. I
A
think
lot.
Gambit is the most exciting part of Apocalypse coming back because yeah, we get to see his origin, I guess, with the new story, but just I'm still just like, we got 5 seasons of you, but like we've already seen a lot with you. We haven't seen a lot of
Right.
this right here.
Sorry,
And
they
then,
did it again.
oh, did they? Okay.
They really did.
No, that's awesome. Maybe I should
Make
have
him
stayed.
win. I know. I kept thinking. I thought if he said, I kept waiting for a text from you saying, they're doing so good while I'm here. I'm afraid to leave. And so I was like, I would be like, okay, that's fair. We'll do it tomorrow. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I, and I'm sure they'll do a good job. I'm a little worried that now you have the 3 timelines going on, plus you have Bishop and Forge
Oh yeah,
creating their own,
in
like,
the present.
right, like, and I thought, okay, like, I I again, I feel like part of that episode was like they were trying to pull at the strings of like, you remember Infinity War and Endgame? Like, remember how at the beginning of Endgame they were looking at everybody missing and they couldn't find him, and then they had that wall that Bishop was standing in front, or Forge, I can't remember which one Forge was standing in front of, and they all had marked off like no longer found, can't uh, whereabouts unknown. He had all
Yeah,
the list of me, and I thought, okay, that's a little too end gamey for me. And then at the end, when they ended up in all the time, I thought, okay, that's a little too like you guys are doing. Don't like you can do anything you want. This is a
yeah,
cartoon. You could do. And you wasted again another episode on Mojo. Like you could do anything you want. Like
half an episode, but
right,
yeah,
but I mean, like it's just like okay, you guys. Oh, it's
too many callbacks to the original, too many storylines. Now, I will say the wall for me, my mind didn't go to Endgame. Mine went to the comic cover of Days of Future Past, and for me, it just sticks out because like my dad had it, and I tried to buy it on eBay, and I got outbid. But it's like the one Wolverine is still alive, obviously, but on the wall it has all these different mutants, and it was exterminated or whatever they said. I don't think they said killed, but that was what I saw.
but which is
But now that you're
wild.
saying the in-game wall, I'm like, that actually does make more sense.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, you've done Days of Future Past.
Yep.
Like you did that storyline. Like, are you gonna
We
do
did the
it?
timeline jumps and
Right? Like,
all
I
of that.
get it, and that, but it's like, okay, but again, great. I mean, like, amazing overall. Like, I
Yeah.
still like these are my just like little nitpicky. These are
Right.
something that was like so good. Like, there's what did they say? There's
Seeing Rogue go rogue, I thought was cool. It was cool to see more of the good guys really just, I don't want to say go bad, but go more neutral. Because I mean, the movies,
we have layers to them. Like, you're not just
exactly. It was
see,
like Wolverine was like the only one that kind of walked that line. Gambit every now and then, but it was like, oh, it's his past. It's not him. This one really added layers and added emotion to them. Although I will say, while I do love Rogue's character, how are you going to and be sad that he died? But you're over here saying you killed my man, blah 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 blah. Like, let's not forget the last image
seconds
that
ago,
Gambit
right?
had was you floating over him with his sworn enemy when you're wearing this red dress making out with him. Like, that was his last image of you before the world ended and he died. And you're over here, you killed my man. Like, that's not your man anymore. That's not your man anymore.
Yeah, you guys flew into battle together, but
Right.
like there was a conversation very much left
Yeah.
that left unsaid. Like maybe that's why you feel so upset about this right now because
Could be.
you knew what you did.
Yeah.
Like
But
like
I thought adding layers for her, I thought her interaction with Captain America was great. I just I love that they, as cool as Wolverine is, they made him a side character and allowed these other characters to flourish. Even Jubilee, who annoys me. I like her story, and I get she's like the young one, so she's well written in the sense that like she was the one that you weren't supposed to take seriously. But they actually added a little bit of depth to her in
Through
this.
through Roberto DaCosta, yes, too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, with her, with him, and I agree with you, like that they were, and I was a little confused too because like, so like Rogue makes it known that she had been touchy feely on Magneto prior to this, and you would have thought that either Magneto just never let her know how he was able to do this. Apparently, he can create a
yeah,
bioelectrical film around himself. I guess like human condom. I guess. Um,
all over.
yes. Then if you're thinking of the Naked Gun condom, it's exactly what
Yes.
I was thinking of. um, so like I don't know if maybe he just didn't tell her that's what he does, because I would think that as soon as she would know that information, she'd pass that along to Charles and be like, let's get, or even Hank and be like, let's get cracking on this. I
Well,
need some, like, we're going to stamp a little belt onto
yeah,
Gambit.
you get a little
I'm going to get
vial
my
of
feel
it.
on.
I mean but I know that apparently in the comics Remy could also do that with his powers. Like what he would do to cards or metal,
Yeah.
he could do essentially what Magneto did but to himself, because like I was reading something, I saw them touching, so then I like started doing a little deep dive,
Hmm.
and they essentially described what he could do as exactly what Magneto could do, but they decided that only Magneto could do it in this one. And but yeah, you would think, because especially in the original series, she was the one that was, I think, on more than one occasion going off to try to get cured because
Right.
she wanted to be. So, like, yeah, you would think if Magneto could do this, you immediately go to the lab and is like, all right, like, this is priority number one.
We need to start working on a human condom here. Like,
Right.
this man has been pawing after me for years,
Years.
and yes, tell me that that video was not the best though. That
Oh,
people
yes.
they're
He's
like
not wrong. He's
they're
not wrong.
like, if you didn't think Gambit was bisexual before this show, like I don't know how to break this to you,
The
but the man,
fingerless gloves, and then you've been lusting after this woman that you cannot
well,
touch for years.
that you claim like, oh, I
Right.
really want
Right.
to, but
Yeah, if only. Oh, there's all
right?
these other women. There's all these other women. Yeah, but they're not her. The one that can't touch me, that's the one I want.
That's the right,
That's
right.
the only one.
The one I can't actually physically contact, but
Yes.
the only woman that really interests.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that so funny. I love how angry the guy is about it. It's hilarious. Yeah. Do you want to now that we've discussed it, there have been a few sports things in the news. There are a few sports things that came out. And then there's always Diddy's video.
I mean, like he's guilty. I just at the end.
Like he's not
Open,
coming back to the country, right?
open and shut case. He turned that private jet around and went right back to wherever he was.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. I mean, it
No.
would be shocking
Yeah.
if he did, but first of all, the tape shows him drag or kicking her, well, yanking her to the ground, which I love.
Yeah.
Somebody
At
said
the
all
elevator.
all he did was push her. Yeah, yank her to the ground. Well, yeah, ran down the hall, down the room
Yeah.
in a towel. Uh,
Yes.
my brother in Christ put a robe on, like that.
Like, come on, man.
Right, yanking her to the ground, kicking her, and then dragging her either by her hair or by her hoodie
Yeah.
on the way out. And from my understanding, that the tape had not been really for 8 years.
This was 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah. So it's kind of a why?
Yeah.
And yeah, so but just everybody's like pretty much he can be buried under the jail.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I
And
will say, what else happened?
in sports?
Yeah, I'm like drawing a blank right
Well, you
now.
mean Scheffler, yeah.
Yes. I, the most frustrating
Can't
part of
wait
this
to
is that
see if
this
there
man
is
is still
footage.
winning.
I can't wait to see if there is actual what do they call it? Cop footage. What is it when they have
Dash cam footage.
yes. I can't wait to see it. Because I
I thought it was a joke because it was like one of the first things I saw when I opened my phone this morning. But who's out? Was that us?
I
No,
don't
that's them. They scored. That's unfortunate.
oh
Or not scored, they got a hit.
no.
So I thought it was a joke when I like saw and it said Scotty Scheffler was attacked because I didn't get the ESPN alert. I got a text. So then I like immediately opened Twitter and I see him in handcuffs. And I'm like, oh, this is like a prank. Like one of his
I
friends is in town. Like, there's no way the world number one
exactly what
on
I
his way to work is getting put in handcuffs.
exactly
So
my
then I
thought.
started going through the comments and I'm like, people aren't like, there's no LOLs. Like, so then I started doing some digging. I'm like, oh, this like actually happened. This
Yeah.
is real.
When I saw the notification, I thought, ooh, somebody pulled a prank on him, and this is not good. And the people covering it are yanked into this too. They don't realize it's fake.
Yeah.
And then like they just and then it was like, and now here's his mugshot, and I was like, oh no, this is
Yeah.
but the memes
The internet is too quick.
too quick. And I was scrolling through Twitter. I'm never gonna call it X, I'm sorry. But like I
I
scrolled
can't
through
do it.
Twitter today and I was like in my head, I'm like, this is why I'm never leaving this app. Like I'm and that's all
You
and
can't.
all I'm sorry, but all Threads does is screenshot them from Twitter and put it
Oh,
up.
yeah.
So
Yeah. You take them from one to the other because the Instagram people need to see what you're laughing at on Twitter.
right. Cause it's and it was just today it was nothing but Butker and Scheffler. All like and I couldn't quit and I was like, Jesus, I'm never leaving this app. I will stay because of today is this is the sole reason why I am not
Yes.
leaving this app. This
You get
is
a slow day in sports, and it's like the internet's like, no, we got you. We're gonna take these two events, and we are going to fill your entire day. Just wild. I have some friends on the Bourbon Trail right now, and they're in Kentucky. And one of the distilleries they went into, they are selling mug shots, and it's a picture of Scotty Scheffler's mugshot, and you can buy a mugshot, and it's got his face like on the jar, and I'm like, this is just elite marketing.
yeah. I heard he was high fiving the people that were on the course that had his mugshot on his their t-shirts.
It
Yeah,
just there was one TikTok I saw and it was this guy and I was like, imagine just being like some college student and you're in the drunk tank from like the night before
and you wake
and
up.
you like sit up and you rub your eyes and it's
He
Scotty
wore
Scheffler, the world number one golfer, in the cell with you, and you're just like, wait, clearly I'm still drunk because there's no way.
me.
It's like, wait, Scotty Scheffler,
Oh, like, you won't believe how drunk I got last night. I thought I saw Scotty Scheffler in my cell last.
right?
Yeah, it the oh yeah, and the jokes about the like let's not forget like I know this man, like he, suffered embarrassment. He was had to, was booked, arrested, had to go to still show up on the golf course. Let's not forget there was a pair of $80 pants that were ruined and
Yes.
the cops $80 pants. I it's and I'll tell you, like, I mean, I have my own thoughts about the Harrison Butker thing. I mean, like most women with degrees probably do. Um, but
You
with
feel
Joe, and like, and it was like one of those things where it's like, could I have tweeted out some like sort of like just raging against? I could have, like everybody was, like it would have easy, low hanging fruit.
yeah.
Obviously, like that's not the issue, and it wasn't like, oh, I didn't want to be I didn't want my thought is okay, I rarely ever care about a man who weighs in about how women I just scroll on. I'm just like, okay, like it, it just
I didn't get involved for a while, and then it reached a point, and I guess it's my own fault because I saw what people said, and then I thought, okay, that's weird. So then I looked it up on Twitter, and then I also looked it up on TikTok so I could watch the whole thing. And by doing that, both algorithms on both apps was like, oh, you want to see more of this.
Said it to
So
you.
then it just kept shoving it down my throat. And
Sure.
then I eventually was like, you know what, I'm gonna start saying something. And so now I've been like commenting, and then I'm like, you know what? No, no.
And that's kind of how I saw it, was just like, oh, I mean, like, what, I'm never gonna, like, so I try to always kind of look at it as I'm never gonna change it. Anybody, like, I'm never gonna change a person's mind on there. Like, people who agree with whatever he said, like, you're too far gone for me to ever try to appeal to. So, like, I don't, what am I gonna say? And then the people that agree with me, it's like, well, then I'm preaching to the choir. So, and again, it's a man who's weighing in about how women should think, like, oh, yank. I mean, like, I don't,
Yeah,
whatever. It was the jokes. And I will tell you, the
the
Chargers video.
Chargers just like, which leads to a whole nother conversation. They said, what sport can you have a whole weekend, but specifically a holiday for not any games, but a draft? And then you have like another unofficial holiday of the schedule release, and now teams have all bought into it and
Right.
find these creative ways to announce their schedule. Like I watched 4 different schedule release videos in a row. Each one was different. And I remember after the fourth one, I'm like, the NFL media team, like just
Overtime.
the
Working it
NFL in
over.
general, how did you make me care about the schedule release?
Yes.
But here I am watching these videos, and not like, oh, just for the Eagles. No, I watched like four or
Yes.
five. At this point, I've watched, I think, 10 of them. I don't care about those teams.
Do so good. There's the, I forgot which team does the, like, the man on the street where they ask just random people what, like, who the teams are.
Titans.
Okay. Yeah, like that, and so, like, then, like, even on Cleveland, on theirs had they had memes with no context. They would just say
Yeah.
meme, you know, I do love that they had the Raven with the name.
Yes, that was funny. That one was good. I think the Eagles had they brought in like 3 or 4 diehard fans, and they had a psychiatrist hold up photos, and it was the team's logos, and it was like first thing that comes to your mind when you see this. And they went through the entire schedule, and I was like, okay, that one's clever. But
Right.
then obviously the best one,
Oof,
hands down,
Chargers.
such a quick turnaround, was the Chargers on just the
Oh
Sims.
yeah.
and,
So much
and
detail. Like, you have to go back and watch it so many times. They even have, did you see, like, the Morgan Waller,
yes,
where
with
he
Kelsey.
where he's on the roof, and,
Yes,
oh, and Aaron Rodgers being afraid of the radioactive
that one killed me. I just,
Butker in the kitchen. Oh,
yeah, baking, opening the oven and baking, like just, it was just outstanding. And again, you made us care about us standing to watch and wait to see who these teams are going to pick that you will not see on the field for like 5 more months. And here I am watching the entire NFL draft, treating it like it's football Sunday.
yes.
And now the schedule release comes out, and that whole day, there was a lot of different stuff I was doing, but that whole day, I'm like, oh man, the schedule comes out tonight. Why do I care about that? But here I am caring about
No,
that.
yeah, yeah, because baseball can't really compete with the draft, because a lot of kids are drafted right out of high school, so you're not going to see
Yeah,
it for, you know, 4 or 5 years,
yeah.
like, whereas, but no, it was great. I don't know how the Chargers managed to get that amount of like, that fast, that amount of
A
detail.
lot of interns.
A lot of, yes. But so good, such amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I just,
I just, my only consistent thought with the whole whatever,
butt lickers make him grown.
yeah, Buttlicker, is that it, like, whether people agreed about this diabolical lie that women have been told, I just thought it was the worst. Like, there's always time and place, and people say those are just his beliefs. Like, here's, like, you're at a graduation, and I don't know how much it costs per year, but let's just conservatively say
Right.
20 grand a year.
Right.
You're telling these women that at minimum have spent 80 grand, like, hey, you wasted your time. Like time and a place. And that just
No,
was
it's
not
yeah.
the
The,
time and
the the
place.
job the job is fine. The job is good, but your real purpose in life and the moment, I mean, he says, I mean, I know he was speaking for his wife when he said her life began the day she became a mother and a wife. And I just thought, uh, well, mine began on the day I was born, but and I love my children. I would willingly die for my children. I would never say my life began with them
Right.
because
You wouldn't wake up
one,
at 2 a.m. to take your kids to work for however long if you didn't love them. But to
well,
say that
one,
your
I
life
don't
was
think that's
meaningless
health.
until then.
I also don't think that's a healthy thing to put on your kids. If I were to tell my children my life started with, what a burden,
Yeah.
such pressure for them to carry, thinking mom and as a girl, if I've got two girls, and if I were to tell them, well, my life didn't begin until you guys were born, and if they decided to never have kids, or if they couldn't have kids, for them to think, well, am I,
It's pointless.
yeah, like, okay, so did my life not, like, what, I'm very but like once again, I always just think the massive amount of pressure that people put on their kids to let them know that they're the most important. They are.
Yeah.
If I like, I mean, again, I express my love for my kids. It's not that I don't. It's just to just say, you mean everything to me, and you have to walk around knowing that you carried my life in your. Oh my God! Like
You tell your kids that they can essentially emotionally ruin you because you're their whole world. Like,
Also,
yeah,
wouldn't
that's
my kids look
pressure.
at me like, really? Like, you didn't have any kind of life before you had us? Like, mom, what were you doing? Like, that's.
Right. Yeah.
And then at what point could I tell them or give them any advice as far as being teenagers? Because they'd be like, whoa, didn't you just say that your life didn't even start until you?
Yeah.
I, I just wouldn't give anybody, even my children, that kind of power over my life because
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them to have that same kind of complex going into their lives as well. I thought it was very funny when you find out what his mom does and that the life that he was raised in.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't want to be like Jesus like here, but I forgive him for he know not what he says because he doesn't understand the privilege he's come from and that he is now affording in his own life to be able to say such outlandish, ridiculous things
Yeah.
because not everybody can. There are women that do want to stay home and they want to be homemakers and they can't because society kind of pretty much sets it up that you need a lot of money to just kind of.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I took umbrage with his phraseology of certain things. It was the I know you guys are thinking about your all the promotions and the job titles, but most of you, and I thought, okay, but see, when you say but, the whole, the sarcastic phrase is everything before a but is bullshit.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, I didn't mean any of that. Like I didn't mean, like, really, it's
At a graduation, like that's like me going to a barbecue fest, getting the mic and being like, let me talk to you guys about vegetarianism and why it's very important.
you've
Like
been fed
everyone
a
there would be looking around like,
you've been fed
what
a
are you doing?
diabolical lie about the
Right.
importance of meat.
Right. At a barbecue fest, literally everyone would be like, bro, time and
Record
place.
scratch. Right. Like, huh? Like, who invited this guy? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I did see that the nuns came out and was like,
Yeah,
agree with this.
I saw that. I saw
Um,
that. I
can you also see, like, he's got the highest selling jersey? I just
high selling jersey from people that swore they stopped watching the NFL like 5, 6, 7 years ago, which is super weird to me. Like, why would you be buying a jersey for a league you're not watching? Because you told me you were done with the NFL.
Yeah, same how it's what they say, the I'm never watching the NFL again, and the Butker was right crowd seem to be overlapping quite a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think I don't I'm not me and Will are not Kansas City Chiefs fans. We've admitted that. I do on one hand kind of feel bad for their PR team right now because they are in did you see
They're going through it.
there's two more players arrested today for marijuana possession?
I didn't see that. I knew Andy Reid's son got off, which was like a whole thing a few months ago. There was
Right.
the Rashid Rice situation
Twice.
twice.
Because
Yes.
he was with the car accident, this
Yeah.
car accident, then he's got the assault at the
Yeah,
nightclub.
at the club or something.
Yes.
You got Brittany Mahomes just doing what she does, which honestly she hasn't done anything, but she's
Jackson
still doing
Mahomes.
it.
Jackson
Jackson
Mahomes.
Mahomes.
Some sexual
Yeah,
assault,
Patrick Mahomes Sr.
right? DUI. You have Butker,
Taylor Swift is all you got, and even that's controversial because half the people hate her.
right, is speaking out of speaking out of his yeah, Butker speaking out of his butt. And then today, yeah, you have two more that were arrested on marijuana possession.
I did not see that one.
So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find
Plus, they're also having just the issues with the ownership trying to convince the people in the city to
let me see if I can
oh nightmare off season for yeah, that is rough. And then you've got the owners that were out trying to
oh,
convince people of Kansas City to donate
they
half
were
$1 billion or something.
basically trying to extort them, yes.
Yeah, and then threatening to leave, and it's like that'd be hilarious, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But also, like, I'm not on the side of the billionaires,
Right.
especially when they tried to pitch it as this will be great for the fans and blah blah blah. And then when they actually got their hands on the plans, it was going to go towards more suites, VIP parking, and something else. So like all of the money that the average citizens would be paying, they
Right.
would not reap any of those benefits. It
No.
would be for the other millionaires and billionaires that are flying in for 3 hours and then flying back out. So yeah, they've been going through it since February, which is wild because like you would think, we win the Super Bowl again, nothing's gonna bring us down, and it's just been hit after hit.
You would have
They
thought that
can't wait
they
for the season to start.
right, they might have taken a lesson from like the Patriots didn't have a when the Patriots started winning, they they
They
had
built a wall around that facility. You didn't know what was going on.
it still didn't stop Aaron Hernandez from going like
That's true.
crazy. I mean, like you still had. I mean, you would think that they learned that like maybe all that attention probably isn't the best.
It's
And what
true.
they should do is not win the Super Bowl this next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
All a huge favor. Get get your locker room into order and come back to us.
The
Let us.
WNBA also started last week.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
they benched her 10 minutes into the game.
they haven't benched her, but she's playing very few minutes.
Didn't they bench her the first game?
Oh no, they did. Yeah, because she 10 turnover. She's at a record for most turnovers in a debut, which I know a lot of people are like, see, we told you she's overrated. And for me, I'm just like, there is an adjustment for rookies going into any
Yes.
profession, like any. And there were some WNBA players that were hating on her coming into the league, but a lot of them whose comments got twisted out of context, if you listen to the whole statement, a lot of them just said, as good as she is in college, you need to pump the brakes because while we all believe she's going to be a great WNBA player, there's an adjustment period. There was like
Four,
five different players all made
four.
comments. Some of them were kind of negative, but I know at least two of them essentially said, as good as she is, that doesn't always transfer immediately. There's going to be an adjustment period. And like I watched them say it, and then the next morning I see an article. Another WNBA player has scathing review or scathing take of Caitlin Clark, and I'm like,
Okay.
No, that's like if you actually read what they said, they gave her props. Oh, there we go.
I
They but they
know.
they gave her props, but they just said there's going to be an adjustment, and so now the
Which
people
is
that thought she was overrated are like, see, but
no.
the normal people are like, no, that's just that's how it
Yeah, like
is.
okay. People who say that have never watched any sport. I'm convinced of that. You have to have not watched any sport because if you say that and you watch baseball, then you were very well aware of what happened to Jackson Holiday when he came out of the minors.
Yeah,
If you say that and you watch football, you have watched college athletes struggle the minute they hit the professional NFL playing field.
yeah,
So for anybody to say that, to me, all that really says to me is I've never like tell me you've never watched a sport without telling me you've never watched a sport.
exactly.
Because every newbie, because again, the college is built up of the 1% of high school athletes.
Yes.
Then the professional level is built around the 1% of the 1% of the.
Exactly.
You're like, these are genetically, professionally, skillfully the best of the best, sir,
Yes.
players. Like, yes, it's going to be an adjustment time. But tell me, I mean, rarely do you have a Paul Skeens that comes in and just
Even
dominates.
the rookie of the year is going to have struggled. Like, I mean, there have been individuals that have come in and won rookie of the year and MVP in the same year. I know Candace Parker did it her rookie year coming out of college into the WNBA. Thought it was awesome. But I also did watch her struggle, and the WNBA has greatly improved since 2008. So yeah, there's going to be an adjustment. So when I see her struggle, I'm not like, oh, maybe she was overrated. I literally look and say, that is exactly what I expected.
They're
She's going to
expected to
have
get out of college.
flashes. Yeah. I mean, she had 20 points in her first professional game. It came with a lot of turnovers. It came on not great efficiency, but you scored 20 points. But you're playing like a rookie that has never played in the professional league.
Hmm.
I'm not going to call you overrated. I'm not going to sit here and puff my chest out. See, I
Right.
told you I could take her one on one. Like,
Which
no, like
which only
she's a
says to
rookie.
me that like your life isn't great if you really for
Right.
somebody else's to suck so bad. Like I can't imagine like leave that kind of hate for like the truly awful people in the
Yeah.
world. Like this is a child playing a sport who who
Yeah.
has tons of eyes on her, still does. Like just like I don't you want like she's not hurting anybody. Like that's one of the few things like I do on social media. Few things that I do comment like, especially on Instagram, is when people will be knocking somebody that's very innocuous in their video, and I'm always like, looks like to me it's just kids dancing and doing something not at jackassery for clout. Leave them be. Like leave people that aren't actively hurting or ruining society. Leave them be.
For all the hate she got from, and I said there were professional players, like some were just saying there's going to be an adjustment, but there were some that was like, yeah, whatever. But for all the comments that she got from people in the media, different alumni, people from other sports, the average fans that never played at that level, I people that liked her, people that didn't like her. The one thing I said is she had, and I said that on a few episodes ago, for all of the controversy surrounding her, she has not said a word. Anything that you are not a fan of. Now, I did say I thought she was an instigator in some instances, but that was like on court stuff. She wasn't attacking fans. It was just she would get into it with people on the other team, and I felt like she instigated like a little too much, which was annoying. But as far as all the media chatter, she goes out there, she hoops, she goes back to the locker room and films a State Farm commercial. Like she's the least controversial person out there to have this much controversy surrounding her.
Right.
And
Right.
now she's gone out and she's played okay. She struggled, and all these different people are saying, "See," and all, oh, you hear all this chatter. And again, she has not said a word.
Like really like save your chatter for, John Morant 35th, video, Instagram video of him holding the
Right. Right.
in a place that he shouldn't. Like
Yeah.
keep your irritation for things that are like
She has not done anything to embarrass her
sport.
team, herself at the college level or pro level, and there are plenty of athletes that have,
Yes.
but she is always the topic of conversation, and not because of her play, but because everything surrounding her.
So maybe we should be very grateful to Butker and the rest of the Kansas City Chiefs for trying to help her out and take the heat.
Exactly. They were just taking one for the team. Like, you know what? We've already, what's one more scandal? We'll
Right,
we'll take the spotlight off of you. You know, when you've
right,
got nine, what's 10? It's
right. Exactly.
like, yeah. But I think it's been interesting to watch. I've seen a lot of the WNBA games uh have had to expand into bigger gyms. Not all of them were playing in the NBA arenas because they weren't filling enough seats. A lot of them were in colleges or different, just smaller venues. I've
Mhm,
seen at least like 4 or 5, maybe 6 games have all had to move to a bigger venue, which
mhm.
goes back to what I've been saying for years about the WNBA and the women's national soccer team. Don't complain about the lack of pay if
If
you
you
are
don't
not
think
going
you
to
can compete.
support. They are getting support now. So now when those conversations come up, obviously it takes time,
Right,
but as those conversations about this and it makes sense. Like, well, how come we're not on TV as much? Well, because they can't sell ads because no one's watching it, but people are watching it now. How come the NBA gets private chartered jets and the WNBA doesn't? And it's like, well, because people go to those games, people watch those games. They have the money to spend. I'm seeing a lot more support, and I think it's awesome. I did see a tweet a while back. It was wrong, but I'm like, "No, I get what they're saying." And they said, women's sports are improving when the comment section is people calling that player overrated and not telling them to get back in the kitchen. Like, as terrible as that sounds, though, it's like, yeah, once you start calling a player overrated, that means you're watching them play
right.
rather than just you see a woman does something,
Can't believe
first
this
comment,
women's
oh, that's a
sport.
weird looking kitchen. Like,
Right,
it's now
right,
shifted to I watched them.
right. Nobody watches that. I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah.
now you're watching, and yeah,
Yeah. You're still hating, but you're at a different level now.
right, right. At least you're hating the same way that you'd hate watching a man's sport. Like
Right.
we're having
Yeah.
an equal conversation now about it.
Yeah. But no, I think it's good to see the support. So that's awesome.
Well,
And we're
good.
getting closer to the
I
Olympics.
think we touched on a lot tonight.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that's good. My voice and everything is kind of back, so it was good. I was glad we got to talk about X-Men '97 because
Yeah, so you had mentioned the Cardinals last week, and then we neither of us said anything about X-Men, and I was like, we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it. But then I was like, there's a game in my heart. I was like, we're talking about X-Men. But I was like, let me just text her and be like, are we talking about the Cardinals? And then when you replied, what? I'm like, okay, good. That's all I needed. Because I just like, there's a game on right now.
and
Like,
I didn't even want to say X-Men '97 in the text. That's the reason I was like, the second I sit down and I hit record, I'm gonna look at you and be like, really? Come on.
I was really hoping that we could shift because I was like, yeah, there are things to talk about with the Cardinals, but I was like, this
Hey,
was we got to the finale. Like we had to talk about it. And I'm glad that you and I both kind of feel the same way, where it wasn't a bad finale,
no, not at
but
all.
it didn't
Definitely
go the
rated in it
direction.
definitely deserves the 9 rating. I think it had
Yeah,
right now. I mean that episode in particular had I think a 9 rating. Um at least it did that day
it
that
might have it might have dropped, but I
dropped
mean I don't see it dropping below like at the
8.
worst an 8.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. No, that was yeah, good, but like ooh, like ooh.
But it is one of the best, and I know that's not setting the bar super high because Marvel's been struggling as of late, minus a few projects here and there. But I can look at 10 episodes and say this was one of the better things that Marvel's done
Yeah.
in the last few years. And it's funny because, and this isn't just Marvel, I feel like a lot of finales. I was like, I feel like people had just forgotten how to write finales because there have been so many obviously, Echo, the whole show was kind of iffy, but even shows that I liked, I felt like recently I've gotten to the finale and been like, y'all don't know how to wrap up storylines and leave cliffhangers. Or, I mean, Shogun, outstanding show, outstanding. And now they're saying it's coming back because they made too much money to not. But
Right.
even that finale, I was like, that was good,
Right. I always
but it
feel like you
wasn't
write the
great.
finale first and work their way towards it.
Yeah,
You could reverse engineer it just so like you know the direction that you're going, but I know that
you
they
can start tying up things earlier rather than like getting to episode 8 and then
right.
be like, oh man, we got
Right.
to do this,
Yeah,
this,
that
and this.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but let's see. We're getting closer to Game of Thrones starting, so very excited about that.
We
So
got another trailer a few days ago.
yes, so we will definitely when that gets every week we might change our recording
That
schedule,
is priority number one.
yeah, to accommodate getting our reviews about each episode probably out a little bit earlier.
Yeah, those are on Sunday nights, right?
So we're gonna say goodbye for now and
Yes.
probably talk a little bit more sports next week.
Sounds like a plan.
Bye.
See ya.